Hey folks, Luke here for That's Us Gaming, and I'm back with a bit of a reworked entry in my diary of an indecisive gamer. This week, instead of just taking you through the games one at a time, I'll be taking you through my week one day at a time. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. After uploading last week's entry, I decided to have an evening playing Dead by Daylight. It had been a week or two since I had last played, and the release of a teaser trailer for a new piece of DLC made me want to play it again. The first thing I was greeted with when I logged in was a notification that the previous ranked season was over and that a rank reset was being applied for the new season. It doesn't completely reset your rank, it only pushes it back a few levels. So I went from 15 to 17. I'm not really too bothered by this, as I'm not really all that concerned with my online rank on this game. The game started off as well as could be expected. I chose to play as the hillbilly so as to ease back into the game and brush off any cobwebs with a simpler playstyle, and it turned out to be a wise choice. I only managed one kill in each of the first 4 games that I played, but that wasn't a problem for me. I was expecting to be a little bit rusty, and I was also trying to get used to using the hillbilly's chainsaw to its full potential. Instead of shying away from it because I couldn't control it, I decided to embrace the failures in order to learn from them. The night didn't progress much better though, with 2 games on the trot without any kills. It's unfortunate, but if I'm being honest, I was just enjoying the game for what it was. My opponents were never playing unfair, they were beating me because they were better than me. The night ended on a high, however. I managed to get 3 kills in the penultimate game and 2 in the final one. Overall, I enjoyed the games that I had played, which is, I'm sure we can all agree, the whole point. Tuesday brought with it another evening of Dead by Daylight. Before I started playing it though, I decided to check out some footage of the new killer on Twitch. A playable test build of the game was made available to all players on PC, and seeing as I'm a console guy, Twitch streamers were the closest thing I was going to get. I've got to say though, the new killer looks epic. A creepy Japanese ghost known in game as the Spirit. Her powers look to be quite interesting. She's able to go into a spirit walk, making her invisible to the survivors whilst also making the survivors invisible to her. Luckily, she can still see the scratch marks that leave behind when in a chase, so it looks like her power will rely heavily on predicting where people are going to be when you exit the spirit walk. I did like the way that the streamers I watched were using it for mind games too, because when the spirit goes into a spirit walk, she leaves a husk of herself in the spot where it started, which looks and acts just like the spirit would if she was stood still, making the survivors believe it's safe to walk past. Some streamers started standing still at certain points in order to lull the survivors into a false sense of security, and then catching them with a hit before beginning the chase. I'm very much looking forward to trying this tactic out for myself when the DLC is released, which should hopefully be in a couple of weeks. After watching the streams of the test build, I had another evening playing the game myself, which also meant another evening playing the hillbilly. And it looked as if all that practice with the chainsaw from Sunday night was paying off. I played 5 games that night, and despite a rocky start with all survivors escaping in the first game, I had a pretty good night, even got 2 games with all 4 kills. I was also lucky enough to get a Memento Mori, a one-use item that you select before a game to be able to kill survivors yourself, instead of having to throw them up on a hook and for the entity to do the dirty work. However, there is a caveat that they have to have been on a hook at least once already. Nevertheless, I got a couple of kills with it in the game you're watching now actually, and I'll be fair, it's a really useful tool for applying a lot of pressure to the survivors. I think that Memento Moris are quite rare, but that doesn't really surprise me given of how powerful they can be in a game. Oh, and before I move on, one of my games from that night has been uploaded to this channel. So if you want to see a game played out in full, then check it out. Just look for Hunting by the Old Pale Rose on our channel. Thursday evening wasn't much different from the others. I played Dead by Daylight. I'm sure you've noticed that pattern emerging this week. I played 4 games, the first 3 with, now come on say it with me, the hillbilly, which led to a 3-kill game, a no-kill game, and a 1-kill game. I learned a valuable lesson too. Maps set on the Auto Haven Wrecker's Yard do not have a lot of space for the hillbilly to run about in. For the last game of the night, I decided to change up who I was playing as, and had a game as The Shape, or as we all know him, Michael Myers. It was a relatively successful game too. Myers isn't the easiest killer to play. His power requires him to stalk his victims first to build up an evil within meter that gives him better stats the higher up the 3 tiers it is. He's very much a slow starter, but if you can get his evil within to tier 3, he is able to knock down a survivor in one hit, regardless of how healthy they are. It's a game changer for sure, but only lasts 60 seconds before dropping back to tier 2, requiring you to build it up again. Like I said, the game was relatively successful, only one survivor escaped, but I only managed 2 sacrifices to the entity. Unfortunately for the rest of his team, one guy disconnected from the game the minute that I caught him for the first time. Bad form, dude. Really bad form. Despite the good games, I decided to call it quits to go watch some horror movies, which, for those interested, were the 1972 version of Tales from the Crypt and a 2015 found footage film called Hell House LLC. I enjoyed both movies. They weren't mind-blowing, but enjoyable in their own ways. Friday saw me playing something different. Hooray, I hear you cry. Well, don't celebrate too soon. The game in question was a trading card game made by PlayFusion based on the Warhammer universe called Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions. Myself and Paolo, our resident trading card guy, paid a visit to our local gaming centre, Firestorm Games, which, by the way, I thoroughly recommend to anyone in the Cardiff area looking for somewhere to buy and play all sorts of board, card and tabletop miniatures games. Anyway, we've been eyeing up the card game for a while now and decided to grab a starter deck each. Paolo went for the Forces of Order and I chose the Forces of Death. Yes, I'm afraid I truly am a sucker for horror and horror-themed things. Aim of the game is simple. Get your opponent to 0 life by having your 4 chosen champions cast spells or summon warriors in order to deal damage, or possibly prevent damage that your opponent attempts to deal to you. I'd seen a how to play video on YouTube, so I was able to teach Paolo the rules pretty quick. We only played 2 games, getting in a win each before having to head home. We both agreed though that the game is pretty damn good. It's got a very simple rule set that is quite close to the rule set for Lightseekers, another trading card game made by PlayFusion, and an equally fun game, if maybe a bit too simple. Warhammer Champions features a bit more strategy than Lightseekers, which I'm definitely a fan of and absolutely looking forward to getting some more games in. Hopefully we can talk some of the other guys here into getting a deck too. I did also pick up a couple of booster packs as we left so I can start editing my deck, making it a bit more personal and a bit more powerful. When I arrived home I had a few games of Dead by Daylight. See, I told you not to celebrate too soon. I played 3 games as Michael Myers, having enjoyed my game from the night before, and wouldn't you know it, I managed another 4-kill game, making it my 3rd this week. It was pretty hotly contested too. They really gave me the runaround and almost made it out. Their downfall came though from being too concerned with keeping each other alive and seemingly prioritising that over getting the generators fixed. The other 2 games weren't too bad either, scoring 2 sacrifices in each. My night was cut short though after experiencing some difficulties with my connection to the game server. My week ended pretty much as it began, and continued, with an evening of Dead by Daylight. Yes, I'm afraid I really didn't play much else this week. I decided to start the night by taking a break from playing Michael Myers and instead opting to play a game as the Cannibal, aka Leatherface of Texas Chainsaw Massacre fame. He's quite close in design to the hillbilly, packing a chainsaw and a cattle hammer, the difference being that instead of charging forward with his saw, he swings it wildly around in front of himself for a short time. He's got a couple of cool perks too, one of which makes survivors drop any items they're carrying when you whack them with his hammer. Unfortunately the game was a dud. I was outplayed by my opponents and wasn't really getting on with the way the chainsaw works, so I failed to sacrifice anyone in that match. For my second game I moved on again, this time choosing the Doctor. He can be quite difficult to play but is without a doubt my favourite killer in the game. I love the style the designers went for, as well as the developer's choice to give him a power that drives survivors insane. I've had some good games with the Doc in the short time that I've had Dead by Daylight, but this game was not one of them. I made a valiant effort of the game, but like Leatherface, I failed to sacrifice anyone, so once again, I moved on. For my last 3 games of the night, I went back to Michael Myers and had an absolute corker of a game when I first went back to him, really making some good use of his stalking ability. I'm not going to say too much about this match though, as I plan to upload it in full sometime this week, so make sure you subscribe to our channel so you can be notified when that's up. Sadly, my last 2 games were not great finishes to the week. Outplayed and outmaneuvered, I managed just 1 sacrifice across both games. I was beginning to get frustrated with the mistakes I was making, so I decided to end the night there and return another time. And there you have it, another week of gaming wrapped up in a neat little package. If you've stuck around to the end, then I'd like to say thanks. Please leave a like if you enjoyed what you saw, leave a comment letting me know what you've been playing, or if you've watched any of my previous diary entries, let me know what you think of the new format. Also, subscribe to our channel if you want to receive more of our content, and recommend us to your friends if you feel so inclined. We'd be truly grateful. All that aside, however, I'd like to just say thanks for watching.